Hey, Jason here. Today's video, we are going to continue analyzing Perdoceo education, stock ticker PRDO. This is part 3 of the analysis. Before we get to that, though, I need to let you know you can get this series as a podcast anywhere in the world for free on all major podcasting platforms: Stitcher, Anchor, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and more. You can get this part of the I Love Value Investing podcast anywhere in the world for free. And if you like this video here on YouTube and our other videos, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified every time we release a new video, and we're releasing new videos all the time. Okay, brief disclaimer today, not the normal one, but this is still for your informational purposes only. Do your own research, but we're doing this to help you figure out how to learn how to better and faster evaluate stocks. Today in part 3 of the analysis, we are going to we're going to start digging into the financials for Perdoceo. If you haven't seen our videos on Whitepoint, I think we're up to 7 parts in the Whitepoint case study at this point. And if you haven't seen those videos, I'm going to do a quick recap here, and then we're going to I'm going to show you how to find the financial statements on the company's website. You used to be able to find them on Morningstar. You can't anymore. They took that away, or they don't work as well. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to show you how to find the 10K and the other financial reports on the financials. Then we're going to dig into the financials. What you're seeing over here on the right side, I got some feedback on a couple other videos that it was hard to see, so hopefully you can see this better now. I increased the size, so hopefully you can see this. We'll do a quick recap here of why we're even doing this analysis on Perdoceo. Frankly, they look like a great potential investment at this point. $738 million market cap as of this recording, and this was as of 9/22. So this is about a month later, as of this recording, 739 million. So about the same. Let me get you back over here. Fantastic operating margins, fantastic and growing operating margins. Decrease shareholder or shares. Book values decrease, which is a little bit confusing. Oops, right, fall. I should have changed that. Fall. There you go. Update this. ROIC is fantastic and growing. Free cash flow to sales, fantastic and growing. They are a education company, so their cash conversion cycle doesn't matter, which is why this is NA. And the main reason we're evaluating them still, yes, they're great above, but they're one of the most undervalued stocks I've ever seen. And this is after evaluating thousands, tens of thousands of stocks using this process that I showed you in the last 2 videos. Now we're going to show you something don't see very much unless you're a masterclass student, and the actual analysis. The enterprise value is fantastic. They have a ton of cash. Everything so far looks great about this investment. My calculation of ROIC is absurd. I look for anything above 10% on a consistent basis. They're at 103%. Their basic valuation, I found them to be worth about $2 billion, according to the numbers I'm seeing. So they are massively undervalued. So here's what we need to find out today. So that's the quick recap. Again, if you want to see the first video and the second video for full context into this, they will be in the links below, and they're for free. So make sure to check those out. But these are the questions, at least based on the initial 2 looks, that we have questions for the company that we need to figure out in the 10K. Book value per share falling over time. Was this due to impairments, asset sales? What does that due to? Cash conversion cycle. What do they have a cash conversion cycle at all? I'm going back over to the screen. If I remember right, they did have a cash conversion cycle, but I didn't mark it because they're an education and training company. So I didn't make sense why, yes, they do have a cash conversion cycle. And I'm actually going to switch my screen so you can see that. There we go. And make sure this is good. Okay, I'm going to remove this. They do have a cash conversion cycle. Here, again, I don't know why. They're an education and training company and kind of a for-profit college. So why did they have a cash conversion cycle at all? We need to figure that out. It's not a huge deal, just it's interesting. And then biggest one, what happened with the massive improvement in the company from 2017 to 2018? Was there an asset sale, new management, acquisition? What happened? We need to figure out what happened in that time frame, because since then there's been a massive improvement in the company's numbers, in the company's profits, in the company's fortunes, essentially, and it's continued to expand since then. So something happened then that I saw in the numbers in part 2, or part 1 and part 2 of this analysis, do we need to figure that out? So get you now CO Education Corp. Oops, not EU. That's another video. New Oriental Education. PRDO. Financial note. Okay. What you're about to see is the greatest secrets in my entire repertoire of investing. And I'm trying to lay it on thick here. Hopefully you can tell that is sarcasm, because this is how I set up my financial notes. These are the categories: general notes, general info, things of note, risks, opportunities. That's it. I added this one recently when I I've been looking at a lot of private business. I added opportunities as well to that one, so I figured I'd add it to here. Probably won't, frankly, be much information here until far later. But these three: general info, things of note, risks. This is where I put things that I note, and this is not a massive secret. Again, I was being sarcastic at the beginning of this. This is where I put all of the notes. And again, if you haven't seen the wide point videos, I'm going to show you the exact process, what I see, why it's important, all of that in this video on Perdoceo, and the following videos on Perdoceo, on how and why what I'm seeing in the financial statements, why it's important, what it means, why I'm focusing on it, all that. So first thing, you used to be able to get financials on Morningstar. The actual financials, like 10Ks, quarterlies, proxies, you used to be able to get them on Morningstar. You can't anymore. They took that away. Not sure why. But to do that, you can either go here to Morningstar and click on their site, or you can do a Google search, of course, as well. But we're going to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this. Financial information. We want the annual report. Annual reports. We want this one for now. Eventually, we will want also the, get out of here. We will want also the quarterlies and proxies if things continue looking good. But for now, we want this. I'm just doing a quick check to make sure you can see this. See everything on both screens. Okay, and I'm actually going to switch the screens so you can see what I'm looking at better in the actual financials. Okay. So 10K, most of this is not important information up here. It's legal crap, frankly. Okay, again, for those who haven't seen the white point video, or the white point videos where we're actually going to the financials, typically, or I always read these financials word for word when I'm looking at potential investments for myself. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to scan over stuff and point out the most important things, frankly, because I don't want to bore you to death. Okay. So their share price is down. This is interesting. Their share price is down pretty significantly from last year. They had a market cap approximately 923 million, so they're at 739. So their market cap's fallen by about 200 million in last, or at least since this was filed. And I think the actual effective date was, doesn't matter. It's a long time ago. Okay. Okay, this is legal crap again. Blah 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 blah. This is same as everything in pretty much every financial report you're ever going to read, or annual report you're ever going to read. This is for informational purposes only. Note on regarding forward-looking statements, the things we expect or say we expect to happen in the future may not happen. All that crap. Okay. Okay, so I want this. The reason I want this info is, put it in the general info, is I want to be able to find this whenever I want to look at the information on the company, and I want to find this. I don't have to actually look up the definition anywhere. I can just go straight to my notes and figure it out. So Perdoceo is Latin. They changed their company name last year, January 1st, 2020, and Latin means to teach, inform, or instruct thoroughly. That's interesting. Not really important. It's just more interesting than anything. Primarily online. So they're primarily an online university. Again, not super important, but I do want to know that. Colorado Technical University, American Intercontinental University System. Provide degree programs through master's or doctoral level, as well as associate's and bachelor's levels. Excuse me. Okay, so again, I will fix this over here, update the new info. Again, none of this is super important, just more things of note that I want to be able to spot immediately as soon as I look at these notes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, for these kind of videos, if you're listening on the podcast, you should probably go to YouTube to listen to these kind of videos so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Because frankly, again, to save you from boredom, I'm not going to read these entire gigantic paragraphs word for word or even scan them just when we come to important points. So if you are listening on the podcast, you might want to find this on YouTube. Okay, this is important. Actually, what I'm going to do here, instead of highlighting this whole thing, is this. So to read this whole thing, on March 2nd, 2020, the company acquired substantially all the assets of Trident University International, an accredited university offering online undergraduate, master's, and doctoral programs with a strong focus on graduate programs. So they had an acquisition, which we thought from the numbers, but this was not in 2017, 2018 timeframe. This was last year. So that is good if that's helped them, and it has. Their numbers are still fantastic and growing. So that acquisition has been accretive, is what it's called, at least so far. Okay. What they're saying here in this line is that they're going to focus, even though the Trident and AIU are combined, they're going to mainly focus on the AIU name when they're talking about both these companies or both these universities. Okay. You want to know this. Here, we refer to CTU and AIU collectively as our university group. So when you see the term university group, they're talking about both, or the entire operation. When they're talking about just CTU, they're talking about just about CTU. When they're talking about AIU, they're talking about just AIU. So that's important to note as you go through the financials, so you know what what they're talking about when they're talking about it. Okay, here are their locations. Definitely want to know those. Why do I want to know those? If they own, mainly because A, you need to know where they are. B, I want to know these because if they own, for example, these campuses, the in-person campuses and the actual land, that can be very valuable. So you want to know that. Okay, they have a huge enrollment. Just this part. Frankly, the other part, the student enrollments by age and the student enrollments by core curricula, don't matter to me. But this does. The actual number of students matters. Huge focus on business. That's interesting, but not really super important in terms of the actual financial analysis. This is important, though. Student enrollments by degree granting program. Why is this important? This is important because if most of their enrollment is bachelor's degree and doctoral and master programs, which it is, that's about, what, 79%? That is important because people who go for bachelor's degrees and doctoral and master degrees are in college longer, which means they're paying the university more over time, which means higher revenues, higher profits, higher cash flows. That's why that's important to know. Okay, strategy, guiding principles. This is kind of most of the time. Again, I'm going to scan it to see if there's anything important in here, but this is essentially their goals and what they want to do and stuff like that, but not super important for the actual analysis most of the time. And not super important for this analysis. Okay, this is important. Our business, reason this is important is because they're using technology as a key enabler and differentiator for us, as we expand to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to additional areas of the academic life cycle. I don't know exactly what that means. It's pretty vague, but that is important because, especially as we saw with code stuff last year, more online stuff is coming. Frankly, it's never going to go away in terms of online education. So if they are at the forefront of that in terms of improving student life and student education through technology, that is important to know. Again, it's not a huge thing in terms of the actual investment analysis, but that is important to know that they're kind of looking to stay ahead of the curve. Student recruitment, marketing student recruitment in the student enrollment process. This could be important, but probably not. Word of mouth advertising for Trident. They do have military training, so their Trident is a military school of sorts. Again, interesting, not super important for the analysis in terms of the financials. When I say that, it's for the economics and of the investment. Okay, here's where they talk more about artificial intelligence, so I want to know about that. One of our technology initiatives over the last few years to expand the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning throughout the academic life cycle. AIU has an AI-based virtual assistant chatbot that we named Lucy. Lucy has streamlined the process for prospective students who want to learn about our institution and is able to address approximately 90% of the questions. So that is important. Why is that important? That is important because if they can streamline that entire enrollment process, not only will people probably most likely join, or if they're interested in the program and Lucy, their AI, can answer 90% of the questions, that not only helps streamline the process for the people looking to join the university, which that increases the likelihood that they will join. That also decreases costs, depending on the cost of this. And I'm assuming now that it's developed, it's probably minimal cost, which, again, increases profits, increases cash flows. So that is important. If they can do that, if they can continue to kind of do that and improve that, that is very good for the company. The one kind of concerning thing is chatbots. I've used some good chatbots. I've used some bad chatbots. Depends on how well they are set up, how well they are automated, how quote unquote intelligent they are in terms of answering and asking the right questions at the right times. If they are good, that is a very good thing. If they are bad or kind of even mediocre, that can be a bad thing. But we will see at some point about that. Missions advisors, okay. They're talking about their structure now from enrollment to, or potential enrollment to financial aid. They have a 21-day essentially free trial of the university here. This is interesting. Corporate partnerships. So the reason this is interesting is, frankly, with some of the private businesses I'm looking to invest in, me and my partner are looking to invest in, they have these similar corporate partnerships. Specifically, we're looking right now to buy we're in negotiations to buy some plastic injection molding companies. And many of the ones we've talked to have issues finding quote unquote highly skilled talent to work for them and keeping them, frankly. So several of the companies we've talked to have built partnerships with universities like potentially Perdoceo's, but they're not this one, in full transparency. But like this, that have technical programs, and let's say they need a machinist for a plastic injection molding company, and they need that person needs to be skilled in that in the machining process. They can set up a partnership with the university or the company can set up the partnership with the university to build a training program to go in there and speak and train and do that kind of stuff. They can also do internships, and that can be a pipeline for not only the university, but it can be a pipeline for the company as well. So these kind of things are fantastic for pretty much everybody around: the students, the universities, the companies, because they can build long-term relationships. Talking about how they help their teachers now, student advisors. Again, all this stuff is okay. Not really important because at this stage, what we're looking for mainly at this stage is I'm looking for red flags. Honestly, I'm looking for reasons not to invest in the company. This is more just kind of talking about the company, in this case, universities, what they do, how they enroll people. This stuff doesn't really matter a whole lot, frankly, which is why I'm not really talking much. So again, this is why it helps if you're listening on the podcast to go to the YouTube channel, because I can actually see what I'm talking about instead of the dead space where I'm not talking. Blah, 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 blah. How they develop the programs, how they deliver the programs. Personalized learning technology. What is this? So, through our equity investment in and license of technology from CCKF. So I want to know that. So they own equity in this company. And Dublin-based educational technology company that provides intelligent system to power the blah, 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 blah. Okay. I want to know this. Why do I want to know this? Because, and sorry about my trying to, again, speed this process up to not bore you to death, but why do I want to know this? I want to know this because, for two reasons. Equity investment, license, actually three, and then this company, CCKF. So they own equity in this company, CCKF, a Dublin-based educational company, and they also license technology from them. So I want to know what, and I would put this in things of notes category. I want to know what that equity investment is, which we'll see here probably shortly. I want to know what the license is. I want to know more about this company and what they do. I want to know more about this technology that they developed, the learning management system, IntelliPath, which we haven't talked about yet. I want to know why I want to know these things is how much value do I estimate that these add to the company, or do they add any value to the company? I assume that if they own an equity investment, it should add value to Perdoceo. However, if it's not really a good equity investment, it's not a good license, it doesn't. But if it does, or if it is those things, my English is not very good this morning. As I'm recording this, I apologize for that. But I do want to know those things because I'm assuming they add value, but we need to figure that out. Faculty training on the stuff, on the IntelliPath, excuse me. to a messaging program or platform with students and teachers. 90% of our students within these universities opted for the mobile app and to receive mobile notifications. That's, again, interesting. I'm surprised. I know people use their phones and tablets a lot. I'm actually surprised that's 95%. I figure more would be on PC, unless they consider PC in there. Okay. Their faculty, again, I want to know about this. 2,300 credentialed faculty. Again, not super important for the financial aspect of the company, but you do want to know that they're credentialed. You want to know that they have enough teachers to cover almost 44,000 students. They must possess at least a master's degree, so they should know what they're doing. It doesn't necessarily make them a good teacher just because they have a master's degree, but at least they know a lot about what they're teaching about. Okay, and then what they require of their faculty. I'm not going to put this in the notes, but this is important to know. If you don't know this, most universities have revenues that fluctuate because of they are out, again, in the U.S., mostly during the summer. So the revenues fluctuate because of that. Again, I'm not going to put that in here because I know that. If you didn't know that, you would want to put this in the notes. Okay, here's their total amount of employees, 4,700. Again, not anything super important as far as the financial analysis at this point, but I still want to know that, or I want to put that in the notes so I can go back and look at that anytime I want to. Okay, again, just kind of general info. Okay, this I want to know. Our goal is to deploy resources in the most effective and efficient manner that we believe will lead to increased stockholder value while supporting and enhancing the academic quality of our institutions. Again, this isn't super important, but you still want to know this, that they have a goal in mind to increase shareholder value. Why do you want to know that? Because as a shareholder, you want them to increase, or a potential shareholder, you want them to increase the value of the shares over time. And if that's one of their stated goals, you want to know that. Again, does that necessarily mean they're going to stick to that? Of course not. But that knowing that that's one of their goals, that is something you want to make note of. Equal employment opportunities and diversity, ethnicity. Okay. Again, if you don't know this, domestic post-secondary education industry is highly fragmented and competitive in the United States. If you didn't know that, you would put that in notes. I know that. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of universities all over the U.S. Oh, 6,000, approximately 6,000 as of 2019 and 2020. So that's a large number, yes. That's interesting. Approximately 2,300 of them are for-profit. Approximately 2,000 are public schools, including state universities. Approximately 1,800 are private nonprofit schools. It's an industry breakdown. I'm frankly surprised there's that many nonprofit, or that there is that many for-profit schools in the U.S. I had no idea about that. Again, not super important to know, but interesting nonetheless. Huge industry, the college university industry, $671 billion industry. Yeah, this most post-secondary institution, regardless of how they are organized, face significant challenges, including continued focus on cost and availability. Again, this is just more general info stuff that's not super important for anything in terms of the financial analysis. Again, just general stuff. Difference between for-profit and non-profit in the U.S. and why they think for-profit is an advantage. Online education, college university education is growing, yes. Okay, this you would think would be important. Most of the time it's not. our competitive strengths. Most of the time, this is we're better than everybody else, and we care more, and all that kind of stuff. And essentially, that's what they're saying. So, not super important. They're accredited by the Higher Learning Commission in the United States, recognized by the Department of Education. They're accredited through at least 2023. They continue to meet education standards. This is important because in the U.S., again, for those not in the U.S., there was and still is a huge fight over for-profit education, college education in the United States, and actually, frankly, worldwide with New Oriental Education, stock ticker EDU. Check out my video on that. In China, China actually, I don't know if they outright banned, but they cracked down on a lot of for-profit education in China, and that sent their stock falling. There was a similar crackdown in the U.S. 5 years ago, maybe, in for-profit college education, and turns out a lot of the for-profit universities weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, weren't teaching, meeting certain standards, and ITT, I think, was one of them that, and you see commercials for this all the time in the U.S. I think they went bankrupt, and they got fined huge amounts by the U.S. government because they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's led to a lot of those college students from those universities getting their loans written off actually as well, or taken care of, whatever the terminology is there. So they're at least accredited through 2023, 2024. That's good. We want to keep watching that if we were to consider investing in them. That is, again, essentially number one priority. If they aren't accredited, then they can't teach. That destroys their entire business model. Different accreditations, the actual accreditations, what they're accredited for. Frankly, this is not important in terms of the financial analysis. I mean, it's good to know, but it's not important for the financial analysis. State authorization. Again, this is important, but not for the financial analysis. Essentially, what this is saying is there's a state authorization reciprocity agreement, acronym is SARA, that recognizes the degree or accreditation services. Accreditation, what was the terminology I'm looking for? Recognizes the accreditation of this university to act and support students. More compliance stuff. On January 2019, the closure one. This is important. What's happening here? On January 3rd, 2019, the company entered into an agreement, or into agreements with attorney generals from 48 states in the District of Columbia to bring closure to multi-state inquiries ongoing since January 2014. As part of the agreements, the company expressly denied any allegations of wrongdoing, but agreed to, among other things, work with third-party administrator who will report annually for 3 years on the company's compliance with various obligations the company committed to in the agreements. Operationally, the company committed to provide students with additional communication of important policies, academic program information, and financial aid information during the enrollment process, provide newly enrolling students an online financial aid interactive tool that can assist them, continue its existing practice of offering a no-cost orientation, permit undergraduate students through withdrawal, which we talked about earlier, within 21 days. This is all pretty much, I mean, this is important to know again, but as long as they are abiding by these things and they continue to abide by these pretty much common sense things, then this will help them remain accredited, essentially what this is saying. They're enforced for 6 years. The company settled with the Federal Trade Commission to resolve an inquiry commenced by the FTC in 2015. While not admitting any wrongdoing, the company chose to settle the FTC inquiry after almost 4 years of legal expenses and cooperating with the FTC's investigation. Again, the investigation that they're talking about here is the investigation, kind of general investigation into all for-profit universities. They're enhancing our operational and compliance processes because of this. Again, nothing major in here. The provisions of this agreement will remain in effect for 20 years. These are both important to watch over long term, so I'm going to get them. Are they super important for the actual financial analysis? No. But again, I want to know these things if, for example, let's say I go back years and I'm like, oh, why did or did I not invest in Perdoceo? I would want to know of these things. And I do that. I do on occasion look back on my analysis, especially when I'm looking at a company or re-looking at a company, all that stuff. Most students require assistance in financing their education. Parent loans and student loans. Pell grants. I'm sorry, my phone is going nuts. I gotta pause real quick. Okay, so return that text. Sorry, now I've silenced my phone. Again, if you're outside the U.S., this might be important to you, but this is pretty, I mean, it's not necessarily common knowledge, but these kind of grants and programs are reasonably known to anybody who ever even considered going to college. Study, veterans benefits, again, blah, 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 blah. Military tuition assistance. Again, this isn't, again, common knowledge, but if you served in the military in the U.S., you typically either get it 100% for free or you get most of it for free. Essentially is what a lot of this is talking about. Payment plans. I'm laughing awkwardly because, again, this is just all essentially legal crap. For most of the first 20 pages of this entire doc is mostly just legal crap. Most of it doesn't have any bearing, or most of it doesn't have much bearing on what the company does. They're just saying what they have to abide by, and if they abide by these things, then they don't get in trouble, essentially is what a lot of this is saying. Okay, so here we go. Scrutiny of the for-profit post-secondary education sector. Make sure I'm recording again. And I am. In recent years, they've had issues with for-profit, and there's been scrutiny. The biggest thing here, the result of the 2020 presidential and congressional elections are likely to significantly impact future legislative and regulatory actions affecting our business. That is true. Again, you have to remember this was probably filed on or sent out around April, but it was for the 2020 fiscal year, so the actual end of the year, 2020. The results of the election were still in question at that point, and they could have massive impacts. So far, they have not. There hasn't been any major disruptions to the college, university stuff that I'm aware of. I know there's talks of forgiving loans and all that stuff, and that kind of stuff could, or making college free, that could. But at this point, as of this recording in late October 2021, that has not happened. Okay, more loan stuff. Okay. Okay, more loan stuff. More rules. Again, more rules they have to abide by. This we want to know. Student loan default rates. What are their default rates? Because they can get in big trouble if their default rates go high. And that obviously would mean they're losing more money and revenues and cash flows as well. So if they go above 10% default rate for 3 years or in a 3-year cohort for any 3 preceding years, it must delay for 30 days the release of the first disbursement. If they go above 30%, they have to do other stuff. What is their numbers? Doesn't say their numbers. Oh, here they are. So their default rates are pretty high, just under 20% in the 3 years up to 2017, when again something happened in 2016, 2017, 2018 timeframe to massively improve the company. But in those years, they were relatively high, which would put them into this category here. If an institution's 3-year cohort default rates exceed 10% for any one of the 3 preceding years, it must delay for 30 days the release of the first disbursements. So what that means is they have to delay their federal funds they get for students because their default rate is above 10%, but it does not go above 30%, which would lead to more problems. Okay, as part of this, both of our institutions had cohort default rates under the 30% threshold for the 2017 cohort. We increased our student communication, counseling, and other efforts in this area beginning in late 2016. I have begun to see improvements beginning with the 2016 cohort. So again, maybe this is one of the major changes they made in that time frame, 2016, 2017, 2018. We want to know this though. And this would be in things of note. Trying to get to a stopping point here, but I'm not seeing one in view because this has now almost an hour-long video, and I try to keep these relatively short. Okay, stop. So let's stop here. Borrow defense to repayment. Let's stop here. Again, I try to make these. I could keep going longer, but again, I don't want to bore you to death. But at this point, see no major red flags. Most of the first 24 pages of this doc has been mostly legal crap, frankly, but nothing in here to make me discard Perdoceo. But stay tuned for our future videos and on Perdoceo and our other stocks. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much. Make sure to like, share, love, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment as well. And hit the notification, subscribe and notification buttons so you're notified every time we release a new video. Release new videos all the time. If you're listening on the podcast, again, for these kind of videos, it makes more sense to listen on YouTube or to watch on YouTube. But if you are listening on the podcast, again, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Make sure to do all that same stuff on the podcast. But on the podcast, we would also really appreciate a review because the more reviews, views, and listens we get to our content, the more people we can help. Oops. I'm trying to bring my face back here. There we go. There we go. If you're listening podcast. If you want more help on how to become a better investor faster, make sure to check out our free resources below, including our 5 free gifts, which includes the full preliminary analysis template we did in part 2 of this video, or on this series on Perdoceo. You get that for free, so you can evaluate stocks well yourself, well and fast yourself. Or you can also get a free PDF copy of my book, How to Value Invest, and a free copy of our guide, 7 tips to picking great stocks and 3 times you must sell. You can get all 3 of those for free at the links below. If you're looking for more help from me on how to become a better investor faster, for example, how to read financial statements better and faster, make sure to check out our newly relaunched masterclass where you learn this. You have access to a students-only WhatsApp group where you can ask any and all questions. You have student access, or you have access to student-only live group trainings. We're trying to do those once a week, and you'll have access to that. You'll have access to 85, 90 plus videos that we're actually redoing to teach you how to find, evaluate, and value stocks well and fast. You'll also learn 23 valuation techniques and much more. And for a limited time, at least it's available still as of this recording, you can get up to $9,000 in bonuses, free bonuses as well, if you sign up now. But if you want more information on all of that, make sure to go to the link below for the masterclass as well. Mastermind.valueinvestingjourney.com, mastermind.valueinvestingjourney.com. But until next time, have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.